Hello folks, this will be a quick guide on Sara Kujou. But before that, I want to thank BenQ for sending me their ScreenBar. This is a monitor light that doesn't take up extra desk space since it resides on top of the monitor, high enough to not be blocking any part of the screen. I just started using this for general lighting and while editing this guide for Sara, but I heard it is also a good gaming light since it reduces reflections from the screen. The ScreenBar is easy to set up with no screws or adhesives needed. Check the description below for more info on this product. Now let's return to our new Electro support. Sara, similar to me, is a huge fan of the Raiden Shogun. However, she does one-up me quite a bit since she has 5 figurines of the Archon while I have 0. Maybe I'll get some in the future. Anyways, aside from her undying support to the Shogun, she is also a great support for any team. Her role is an attack buffer that can dish out a reasonable amount of damage herself. It is probably the easiest to compare Sara with Bennett since both provides attack buffs. The main difference is Bennett's buff lasts twice as long and he can also heal. However, Sara has several ways to activate this buff and is easier to be built for damage since you will not be spreading your artifact stats too thinly. So how does Sara buff your team? There are technically 3 ways, not including weapons or artifacts. The first method is her elemental skill. The skill itself doesn't do damage when you push it, instead it teleports her backwards and gives her the crow feather cover. This buff makes her next charge shot place a marker on the ground where it hit with a delayed explosion. Any friendly characters inside the explosion will get the attack buff for 6 seconds. Here's the skill in action. I have her using a sacrificial bow, which can reset her elemental skill when the AoE damages an enemy. Also, the skill only generates energy particle if the AoE hits an enemy. The charge shot arrow itself does not spawn particles when you hit an enemy, nor will it reset her cooldown. Her right hand will sparkle to indicate her buff shot is ready, and this buff stays even after switching characters. Here's a bonus trick with her E. Since it's a teleport, she can move through certain walls like the ice trap from the Mirror Maiden. However, the teleport itself is kinda finicky, and after using Sara for a while, you will notice the distance it travels is not that consistent. This also makes escaping the ice prison hit or miss as well. Now let's go back to the math part of her buff. At talent level 6, the buff will be 60% of her base attack, which only depends on her level and weapon. You can check her base attack from the attributes page. Right now, my Sara has 634 base attack, and the 60% buff will be 380.4 attack. Now let's look at Ganyu, who has 2075 attack. If the math is correct, Ganyu's buffed attack will be 2455.4. Lo and behold, the math works out. It shows one attack higher due to decimal values being rounded. So that's one way Sara buffs your team. The second way is with her burst. After using her burst and quickly swapping to another teammate, they will get the same buff as the elemental skill. Her burst has decent damage scaling too, allowing her to be more offensive than Bennett. When leveling her talents, focus on her skill first since it increases the buff damage she provides, then level the burst second. Don't even bother with the normal attacks, you'll only use her charge shot for buffing and not attacking. Her Ascension 2 lets her charge the arrows faster, reducing the vulnerability time while aiming with her bow. It's actually pretty nice until you get Constellation 2, which I'll talk about in a minute. Her other Ascension passive restores some energy to the team when the Crow Feather AoE hits an enemy. And her final passive reduces expedition time. This makes a total of 5 characters that reduces time. If you happen to have all 5, then you can finally sync all your expeditions together. If you enjoy my guides, then please subscribe and maybe join my Discord. It will really help me out. All that good info is in the description below. Now let's continue with Constellations. Constellation 1 is whatever, it reduces her E by 1 second. Now, C2 is where she gets drastically stronger. It makes her elemental skill drop a buff and crow feather without needing a charge shot. This is also the third way she can buff your team. This is her best and most important constellation because she can quick swap a lot faster and you can easily buff while surrounded by enemies. Since her burst costs 80 energy, having another consistent way to buff is really important. Now on to her last 2 constellations. C4 does increase her burst damage by a little, so it's not that bad. And C6 increases your teammate's electro crit damage by 60%. This will only increase the electro damage and not all damage. The 60% buff will also not show on the stat screen, but you will notice the difference. If you have Constellation 6, then pairing her with an electro DPS is a good idea, but remember, the buff only lasts 6 seconds. On to artifacts. Her best set is 4-piece Noblesse, no questions asked. This set increases her burst damage, which already has very good scaling, and the 4-piece gives your team another attack buff for 12 seconds. We know her Q already provides a buff, so how does Sara's burst and the 4-piece stack? Very good actually, without diminishing returns. Here's the proof and math. I have Xingqiu using 4-piece Noblesse, and we have Ganyu with 2075 attack. After using his burst, Ganyu's attack increased to 2243. Now let's see what happens when Sara uses her burst with 4-piece Noblesse. In the example with her E, we know the Crow Feather buff will provide 380.4 attack. If there's no diminishing returns, then Ganyu's attack should become 2243 plus 380, in other words, 2623. So let's do that. Here's Sara's burst, then swap to Ganyu to give her the Crow Feather buff, and voila! Ganyu's attack is 2624, just as we calculated. Alright, so no attack loss from stacking Sara with 4-piece Noblesse. What if you have another teammate with 4-piece Noblesse already, or if you don't have 4 good pieces, what alternate artifacts can you use? Well, the other option is the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate. Since Sara needs a good amount of energy recharge, this set will help in that department, and it also increases her already strong burst damage. And if you really don't have any good artifacts, then you can mix 2-piece Noblesse with 2-piece Thundering Fury or an 18% attack set. For the Sands, you want either energy recharge or attack percent. Goblet will always be Electro, and the helmet should be crit for more damage. The substat priority is similar to most burst DPS. Crits are up top, then attack percent, then energy recharge. You want enough ER to be able to use her burst off cooldown. And her weapons are pretty simple. If you want her to provide the most attack buff, then use the weapon with the highest base attack. This means any of the 5-star bows are good on her. You can also use the 4-star weapons with energy recharge substat like the Sacrificial Bow, which can also reset her elemental skills cooldown, or you can go for more damage with the Alley Hunter, Stringless, or the Crit Bows. So that's a quick guide on all the important parts of Sara's kit. Personally, I will not use her until I have her at Constellation 2, but she can still do decent damage at Constellation 0. Use her on any team that can benefit from a short duration attack buff. Anyway, thanks for watching and have fun out there, traveler.